Does your content make you look like the go-to expert online, or does it make you look like a rookie? See, the big problem I see is that a lot of realtors are out there walking around and they're actually really smart, really knowledgeable, very experienced, credible people, but when they show up online, it doesn't reflect. And so in this video, I'm gonna cover how to actually show up as the go-to expert online, how to make it so that when people see you, they actually respect what you have to say and want to actually do business with you. So we're gonna start off by covering first the problem that most real estate agents make. So I see a lot of people when it comes to social media just taking the easy route or the lazy route sometimes even. And one thing I learned when I first got my real estate license is people do business with people they like, know, and trust. I hear we're in the relationship business. I hear you always have to be building rapport, right? All these things just all kind of center around making genuine connections. And now that's very easy to do in person. Like we can meet somebody at like a random line at a Starbucks and hit it off and have some super deep, insightful conversation. Hey, let's exchange numbers, let's get in touch. Like things like that happen all the time. But online, it's a lot harder, primarily because there's no real live conversations. I mean, unless you're live streaming and there's people in the chat, that's a different thing. But if you record a video and you post it to a platform, when someone watches that video, they're not seeing it in real time. You're not actually talking to them in real time. So it's a lot harder to actually build that like, know, and trust on social media. And it takes a lot more steps and a lot longer time in order for someone to like, know, and trust you. So the problem I see with a lot of realtors is that they're just shortcutting how they present themselves. Not the actual content, not the material, not the information that they're sharing, but how they present themselves online. And I don't mean like, doing your makeup or getting your hair done, getting a haircut. I mean like the equipment that they're using. And this is crazy to think about, because if you really stop and think, like, let me go through the lead gen sources really quickly. Usually when someone starts cold calling and they want to take cold calling seriously and start increasing their results, the first piece of equipment people tend to opt into is some sort of dialer, right? So when you want to take cold calling seriously, you invest in a dialer. The next lead gen example, let's say you want to take open houses seriously. When you want to take open houses seriously, a lot of people start investing in directional signs. They start investing in getting custom-made open house signs, like their logo, their face, their brand, their phone number, their own personal phone number. Stop using the office signs, right? They start investing in sometimes crazy big signs, like blow-up stuff, or like I seen one open house, and I don't know if you know about those like streamer things that show up at like car washes. There's people who buy those for their open house or make their open house look like a party, right? So when you're taking open houses seriously, you invest in better equipment. When you're doing your listings, right, you're investing in, custom listing, equipment, right? Custom listing flyers and presentations and custom signage and all that stuff, right? And you're getting professional photography done. You're getting usually professional staging done sometimes, depending on the listing, if it's like luxury or not. Like you're doing a lot of investing into equipment and presentation for when you do your listings, right? Well, what are some other lead gen strategies? Let's say even if you want to do like door knocking seriously, depending on where you live at, let's say you live in Canada or something and you're door knocking in the winter, you're probably gonna invest in a very heavy duty coat, right? If you live in, let's say, Texas in the middle of summer, you're probably gonna invest in some sort of thermos to keep your water cool while you're out door knocking. But like in every lead gen strategy, when you start taking it seriously, you start investing in better equipment so that you can do it more efficiently and more effectively. But for whatever reason, when it comes to social media, we're taught just use your phone. Now again, there's some truth to that because your phones are very, they look good, they sound good for the most part, and it's a great entry level into just getting the ball rolling with creating content. But if you use that forever, I mean, maybe in the next few years, the cameras are already really good, but there's a difference when you don't know what you're doing, you're just using a phone camera or a laptop camera, which is even worse, or when you're using a professional camera. There's just a clear quality difference. And I want you to think about for a second, everyone that you look up to and admire, right? Most of the people, right, whether it's Gary Keller, whether it's Tony Robbins, Ed Milet, you name it, doesn't matter. Most of the time when you see these people, right, in big publications and major media outlets and, renowned podcasts and all these things, when they appear, they aren't just well dressed. The quality of the content you're looking through is also very, very high. Their photos, their videos, they're all very crisp, very sharp. There's no blurry, pixelated, fuzzy images. There's no awkward audio that sound muffled or with background noise and stuff like that. They have people at the highest level to ensure that their quality matches their expertise. Because if they're saying a bunch of good stuff that could actually transform people's lives, but you have a muffled microphone, everyone's just gonna opt out, right? No one's gonna pay attention and listen. So you might be the world's best kept secret simply for the fact that you don't look like the expert that you actually are online. And that's what I wanted to sit here and talk about for the next half of the video is what do you need to do that? Like, how do you appear as the go-to expert online? Where I like to think of it in three buckets of things that you need to take your presence from a rookie, like I like to say, to a seasoned veteran. Now, you could be a brand new beginner on social media and appear like a veteran if I don't want to teach for that. If you want to take social media seriously, treat it like any other lead gen strategy and invest in the equipment to do so. So the three buckets are lighting, cameras, and microphones. Those are the three types of equipment that you need to invest in order to start taking your social media presence to the next level. Now, you don't need to invest in them all at the same time, and you don't need to invest in them all in that order. I'm going to share with you the order that I invested in my equipment in and the journey. So I started creating podcasts back in, I bought my first piece of equipment. It was a Nexigo 1080p webcam. I bought that back in the fall of 2021. I bought a microphone and a boom arm, and I'll get into what all that stuff mean, but this is in fall, maybe like October of 2021. And the reason I purchased this equipment is because a buddy of mine told me, hey, we should start a podcast. Now, if I never was told, hey, we should start a podcast, I would have never purchased that equipment. So I kind of came into it with intention. Like, I knew I was going to do this. I knew I was going to record podcasts. Long story short, he ended up, going back to school, and I wanted to keep going with it, so I ended up starting it on my own. But that was my first piece of equipment when I got started. Now, again, you don't need to purchase equipment to get started creating content, but if you're someone that's looking, this is going to help shortcut the process. So from there, that was my setup. I spent, I think, $60 on the mic. About $60 on the mic. I think like another $50 on the webcam, and another, let's see, I think I want to say $100 on the boom arm. All in, I think I spent just about $200, just about, to get started. I think maybe a ring light, which is like $10. I bought one of those desk ring lights. But that was what I invested in when I first got started. Now, did I need to invest in that equipment? No, but I think I wanted to make sure that there was some level of quality, especially because a podcast, like, you're in somebody's ear, you're in somebody's headphones a lot of the time. And I want to make sure at the very least that my audio was good. I wasn't really too worried about the video, but I wanted to make sure that my audio was good. So that is kind of the premise. The order that I invested in equipment was audio, camera, and then lighting. That was the order I'd recommend you guys starting now is audio, lighting, then camera, especially because camera are probably the most expensive out of all the other 2-3 categories. Let's just break down audio very quickly. So when it comes to audio, there's a tons of different things to choose from, tons of different brands, tons of different companies. The first question I want you to ask, and this is the most important question, is do you plan to create content on your phone or on your computer or laptop or desktop or whatever you use, right? I have a laptop. So are you planning to create content on mobile or on desktop? Depending on your answer will determine what type of equipment you purchase. And so I create content on my laptop. And I could probably go into a full video explaining why I do that. But long story short, again, I started doing video interviews for my podcast. So I was already making content on my computer. And then when I wanted to create content for my personal, like my actual business, I would use my phone, and eventually it just got too busy and too complicated trying to record on a computer for this thing and on a phone for that thing. So I just figured out a way to record all of my content on the computer. Right? That just makes my life easier. It makes it easier to send my videos to my editor to get them edited. It makes it easier for him to send them back to me. It makes it easy for me to then download them and schedule it out to the social media schedulers, right? So me recording on my computer is more so for convenience and the reason behind that is called the path of least resistance, right? Where is the least amount of resistance? Sometimes that is a red flag, right? Maybe that's the easy way, the shortcut. But sometimes the path of least resistance is the best path, because when there's less resistance, it's gonna be easier for you to continue doing something for the long run. Right now, in one of my videos, I talked about sustainability, right? If your social media strategy isn't sustainable, you're gonna eventually burn out, you're gonna eventually get tired of it and quit, and then you're never gonna see the results to any of the labor that you put in. So for me, recording on my laptop is super convenient, super efficient, and super effective for me. I don't record any videos at all on my phone whatsoever. Determine what type of, what platform you're gonna create content on, right? Desktop or mobile. With that being said, I create content on laptop, so that's where all my suggestions are going to be for today. Say hello to my little kitty. He is my guest for today. He's probably gonna be bothering me for this video. But with that being said, let's get right into audio. Now, in the audio world, there's a couple brands that reign supreme, right? There's a couple big brands. So we have Rode is a really big brand. We have Shure, that's another big brand. And then a couple other smaller brands that are also really big. Audio-Technica is the one I started off with. Samsung is another big one, and then DJI is another one. So DJI, Rode, and Shure are kind of like the big dogs. Audio-Technica and Samsung, from my knowledge, aren't as big. Now, when I first bought a microphone, I bought a microphone that I can directly connect to my laptop. So there's some microphones, and I could probably go get an example right now. Let me go get an example of a microphone. I should have brought this before, but let me go get an example. All right, so this is the Shure MV7. So this microphone has what's called an XLR cable. You can see it right here, XLR cable. This can't directly connect to your laptop, right? Or your phone if you're using your phone, but this doesn't connect to your laptop. There's a fancier way that I use, and right now I'm using a different microphone, but this microphone is like top of the line in terms of like quality. Once you start using like an XLR cable, that's top of the line. But my first microphone, I could directly connect it with just a regular USB-C cord. So if you have like an iPhone charger, or for like the newer iPhones, or a laptop charger, or Android charger, you can connect microphones directly to your computer. So I purchased, to start off, the Audio-Technica 2100X. Now I think that may be discontinued, but no worries, I have a list of suggestions down below in the description, so you'll have a budget-friendly substitute for it. But that was the first microphone that I bought, and it was great for me because I was only doing podcast interviews and only recording from home. Later on, I decided to invest in a different type of microphone, which is the one I'm currently using right now. So I'm currently using what's called the DJI Mic 2s. If you can see here, the DJI Mic 2. This is really great because this little microphone right here, right? This one costs, if I'm not mistaken, roughly 350 bucks. But the good thing about this is that you can connect this to your laptop, or you can connect it to your phone. So if you do create mobile content, you can use the DJI, and that's one of the best mobile mics that you can use. And when it comes to choosing what microphone, I know some of these numbers can be scary, but do not cheap out on microphones. Like, audio quality is extremely important. Doesn't matter how crystal clear, like your iPhone camera, it looks great. Your iPhone microphone sucks, right? Invest in a microphone that's actually gonna make your audio good. Don't take the cheap route just to take the cheap route. It's not worth it. And on top of that, most of this stuff is gonna last you years, right? This microphone, 350 bucks, that's probably gonna last me at minimum, right, like 5 years, unless I lose it or it gets stolen or something like that, right? 5 years, 350 divided by 5, I'm not sure what the math on that. I think that's 70 bucks, right? So $70 a month for one of the best microphones that you could buy on the market right now for, again, mobile or laptop. So that's what I'm using right now. And then I connected a little fancier microphone to the thing. So as you can see here, right, I have the DJI mic, and then it's connected to right here. This is just to make it a little bit of a cleaner look, but that was a decision I made because sometimes I record podcasts on the go, and I don't mean on the go as in from my phone. I mean on the go where I'll take my laptop to, let's say, a hotel or somebody else's office, and I'll use my DJI mics because I don't want to sit here and travel with a whole big old microphone, right? So these are great for me because I can connect them directly to my camera and my laptop and still use them. They're high quality, they're very mobile friendly, right? I could travel with them, they don't take up much weight, just slap in my book bag or even slap in like my coat pocket or something. nice and easy. So that is my microphone recommendation. That's what I'm currently using, right? The DJI Mic 2s, right? And then when I have a home studio right now that's, sometimes I have it set up, sometimes I don't. But when I'm actually want to create like more professional content, this is my go-to because the audio quality on this is like top tier. Now that we got audio out the way, let's get into lighting. And so lighting is, I don't want to say more important than getting a good camera, but it's almost, with bad lighting makes a good camera like null and void. So like they're like neck and neck between the two. But again, if you're using your iPhone camera, your phone camera, right, lighting is gonna be super duper important, right? Because if you have great lighting, that's gonna help make you just pop out in your video. And so there's two ways to go about it, right? Three ways. So the first way is if you have natural light. So like right now behind me, I don't really have any lights, like at least behind the camera pointing at me. I just have a giant window in my living room, and the time of day I'm recording right now, just light is beaming inside my house. So I don't really have any external lights connected right now or plugged in to help light me up. This is just all the natural lighting. The great thing about this is that one, it's free, right? You don't need to pay for lighting. And two, that it's free, one. And two, natural lighting, it just complements you a lot better, right? And so the cons about natural lighting though, is that let's say there's a big cloud right now, that would completely like shift the whole lighting, and there would be nothing I could pretty much do in post-production to fix that. So if you're using natural lighting, you want to make sure you like check the weather, make sure there's no like random rain scheduled or anything like that, or big clouds in a way. Because if a big cloud were to come through right now, it would just turn off, pretty much, not would turn off, but it would just make this whole video look crazy, and there's nothing I could do to edit it and fix it. So that is the pros and cons of natural light. The second thing I see most people use, and what I started using to start off, was a ring light. I had a very simple ring light that connected to USB, and so I either plugged it into my laptop sometimes, or I would plug it into an outlet next to my laptop. It was nice and simple. Now, the thing I see with ring lights that a lot of people get wrong is that they just use the ring light as is, and what happens is they get like a big circle on their face, especially people that wear glasses, right? People that wear glasses, they get two like circles in their eyes. The reason that happens is because the ring light is what's the fancy smart people say, very harsh lighting, right? Very harsh lighting. You don't want harsh lighting. You want lighting that complements your face, right? That's soft. You want soft lighting. That's the industry terminology. And so one of the tricks that you could use if you're using a ring light is to put like a plain white shirt over it. Right? If you put a plain white shirt, it's gonna help soften up the light for you so that you don't see that harsh ring. You can also turn up or down the brightness or put it further away. But usually if you put a shirt over it, right, that'll help fix that issue of just having that bright light on you. Now, the third type of lighting is like soft boxes and panels. Right? So with soft box, that's what I have. If you ever have taken a professional headshot, you've probably seen a softbox. It's either a super, like let's say a stand, and you see like a big round thing or a big square thing, right? That's what a softbox light typically is. And so those are really good because when light gets spread out across a bigger surface, it gives a more softer look, and the shadows on your face look a lot less harsh, right? So you don't look as old and as, weird. Sometimes if you want like a more cinematic look, then that's another conversation that I'm not really knowledgeable on. But for keeping it simple, the softbox I purchased was, I think I got two softbox for $70 on Amazon. Those softboxes, I still have both of those to this day. I bought them back in 2021. So they've lasted me, I wanna say no, I lied. I bought those in 2022. And so they lasted me about 3.5 years as of now so far. So $70 divided up by 3.5, almost 4 years, like 15, $20 per year, I guess, that you're spending on quality lighting. And a good thing about those lights, again, is if you have more space in your home studio or wherever you plan to record, then you can just set up once, and then most of them are remote control. You can just turn them on, turn them off. You don't have to get super duper fancy. I'm recording a documentary right now. My videographer, he had lights that looked like space cannons. Like those lights he sent, just for the light alone, just spent like, I think he said maybe like close to 2,000 or something like that, or 1,500. But like some really, really high quality lights. Most people don't need that. Again, 70 bucks is what I spent for mine. If you use a ring light, let's say you're recording on the go, you can just get one that connects to your phone or your laptop, right? Nice and easy, USB-C or USB, and most of them will do. With that being said, lighting, again, if you're gonna invest in a camera, make sure you invest in lighting first. And if you are gonna use a professional camera, it's almost like it's imperative that you have good lighting, because on days where the natural light goes away or you're not in control of it, right, it just saves you a bunch of headaches. So make sure that you have lighting. Now, the final piece of the pie is camera. Now, most of you can get away with just your phone camera. So if that's what you want to do, don't bother investing the money. But if you're, again, want to take that next level up, want to make your content look more and actual like professional, camera is super important. So I bought what's called a beginner camera, and just the beginner camera alone was pretty pricey, right? I had to pay for the camera, the lens, the stand that it stands on, and the little like connector thing, like the ball head, so like I can like adjust it and move it around. Just off that alone, I think I spent somewhere in the ballpark of like 1,200 bucks, right? For the camera, the lens, the stand, and all that stuff. Now, there's a camera that I think is a little bit cheaper. The one that I use is called the Sony ZV-E10. I got a Sigma 16mm lens. Again, this all sounds fancy. There's gonna be like an Amazon link below where all my recommendations. Don't even worry. Sigma 16mm lens, and then a switch pod stand and a switch pod ball head, kind of like adapter so I can move and adjust the camera as necessary. The reason I purchased this camera was because that's what a lot of YouTubers are using. A lot of vlog creators and content creators use this camera setup because it's simple, easy. It's, again, on the budget-friendly side for cameras. But if you are, again, on a bit of a tighter budget, there's really good webcams nowadays that you can use and plug directly into your laptop. When I got started creating content, I used the Nexigo, again, 1080p webcam. I think I paid like 50 bucks for it, I think I mentioned earlier. There's like Logitech 4K webcams that you could purchase for like 100 bucks. Right? So really, really quality stuff. It's not gonna be as good as a professional camera, but really, really good quality stuff. And if you have good lighting, most people, the untrained eye, won't really be able to tell the difference. So just a matter as to like how much you'd like to invest and what your budget is. But once you have all that put together, your content is gonna look head and shoulders above everyone else. Most people don't invest anything. Most realtors don't invest anything when it comes to their social media presence. And again, I don't mean creating content, posting content. I'm talking about like how the content actually sounds, how the content actually looks, like the camera quality, right? Most people just completely gloss over, skip over that step. So let me break down my exact setup right now, because I talked a lot about lighting, I talked a lot about cameras, I talked a lot about microphones. Let me just condense it down. So if you wanted to replicate my exact, camera look and feel, if you like how my camera looks and feel now, I want to replicate that. Microphone, right? I'm using right now the the DJI Mic 2s, right? If you want a cheaper alternative, they also have the DJI Mic 1s, right? So that's a cheaper alternative. Same company, just the older generation. For lighting, right, I'm using the Mount Dog softbox light. Again, I got 2 for 70 bucks, right? And then I'm using the Sony ZV-E10 camera. There's a cheaper version, if I'm not mistaken, called the ZV-1, if I'm not mistaken. Make sure to do your homework on that. But I'm using the Sony ZV-E10 Sigma 16mm lens on a SwitchPod little tripod. SwitchPod is the brand, and then a SwitchPod like ball head adapter thingy. All in, that cost me about 1,500 bucks for everything. It's probably been one of the best investments. I'm gonna share a quick story with you. So back in 2022 is when I invested in like a professional camera or whatever. And I used to have a bunch of people I interviewed on my podcast. And at the time, the guests would come on and they had really good looking audios and visuals. And my girlfriend at one time, I showed her my podcast and she was like, John, you can't keep having people come on your show and it looks like you're the guest, right? You have to do something about this content stuff. Like, they look way better than you. And we laughed and joked it off. And I mentioned like, hey, that's so true, but I don't have the money right now to actually buy the equipment I need for it. So she ended up spotting me the money at the time to buy and invest in a camera. And that was probably one of the best decisions I made, because now sometimes when I'm doing my podcast, like I'll hop on the podcast and it would just be like my laptop camera, and I have an old MacBook, so the camera quality is god awful. And then I'll switch to my actual professional camera, and my guests will be like, oh my goodness, John, like what's like night and day difference. Wow, like what did you just do? What setting did you just plug in? It's like, nah, I just turned my camera on. And so like when you start taking your content seriously, people will start taking you more seriously. It's a weird phenomenon, right? I didn't change anything about who I am. I didn't change anything about, you know, how I actually look, like my face or anything like that. Or I didn't change anything about the material I'm talking or the way I deliver the material. All I did was just invest in better equipment, and people started to take me more seriously. And so you never see, like, let's say you watch a CNBC interview, right? And the interview was shot in like 480p, which is like from 10 years ago, right? It doesn't matter who they had on, right? Unless they had on some like crazy billionaire, right, that you recognize, you definitely wouldn't listen to that interview, right? There's no way on earth you would listen to it. If you didn't recognize the person already, didn't matter how successful that person is, you would just gloss over it because the quality was awful. So when you decide to start creating videos, it doesn't have to be right now today, but when you're ready to invest in camera and equipment, I want you to ask yourself, all right, am I creating equipment on mobile or on my laptop? If you do both, ask yourself, when do you batch record most of your videos? If you don't batch record, start. That'll make your answer a lot easier. From there, right? From there, if you're recording from laptop or on your phone, then from there, determine what equipment you can get for that device. Let's say you want to do videos on your phone. This microphone right here, right, this Shure microphone will not connect to your phone. So like that automatically takes out, a lot of options that you can look from. But again, don't cheap out. Rather hold out than cheap out, right? Now again, I do have some budget-friendly alternatives down below, but that's one last thing I want to share is with your content is as you start to make more videos, right, you'll start to be more confident, you start to be more well-spoken, you start to be more articulate, and you then pair that up with the equipment that you're using. That's what's actually that combination is going to actually paint you as the go-to expert. Don't think it's just one or the other. Don't think if you just buy good equipment, people are automatically going to start listening to you. You have to practice both. So as you do invest in better equipment, make sure you also invest in becoming a better communicator so that people actually want to work with you. With that said, if you actually need help creating a social media strategy, I can create a whole video on how to stay top of mind in 2026. All you have to do is click right here to watch it, and I'll see you in the next one.